When we were outside, we were discussing the physics model of how information transfer in biology could occur. And now what we're going to do is we're going to discuss some of the implications of that model. So Peter, in Chinese medicine, we've got this idea of source energy. Perhaps you'd like to explain how source energy fits into this Milo-Wolf model.
Yes, well, it's interesting what happened in this respect. I mean, we are pioneering this. It hasn't been done before, so we've got no idea where to start. So start I did, because we know in Chinese medicine the source energy, it appears as if the source energy is stored by the body in tubules. There are a lot of tubules, or little tubes or cavities, in the lungs and the kidneys, and this is where the source is supposed to be stored, as well as in the brain.
And are there also tubules in cells?
There's microtubules in every cell that look, nobody quite knows why they're there, but there's a lot of them in the cytoplasm of each cell. So, what is this source energy? If you're looking at what we run on, the chemical model says we run on oxygen and carbohydrates, sugar and so on. But Chinese medicine doesn't say that. It says that we also have a source energy which we run on. And so I wanted to look at it, and I wondered what it was. So I simply used some of these tubules of the body, which are obviously tuned to a range of frequencies, and see if we pick anything up. And of course, this works like an energizer. We have a NES infoceutical called Source Driver, and this is to assist the body to get energy out of space. Well, this 0-point energy is everywhere. It can be measured. People try to measure it. It's the energy that's left after you haven't got anything else there. And I'm saying, well, why can't this just be a measurement of the matter wave of de Broglie, which we were talking about outside? This is the energy that carries the information in the universe, remember. All of those standing waves from all of the matter in this room all combines, and it goes out forever. It's electromagnetic in character, so it doesn't need a carrier. This could be the source energy. And then I went further and decided that certain elements of the body, remember that in biology, for some reason we don't understand, there are certain elements that are very big in biology.
Right.
Hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, calcium, and so on. The big ones, we're made substantially of these.
Maybe we should briefly go back to tubules that must act as resonant cavities for actually collecting source energy.
Remember, we said outside that the way we measured everything was by matching, by getting a cavity that would collect that sort of energy and match. So that's what we did with the source energy of the body. We said, well, these tubules must be just long enough to get perhaps a harmonic of the source energy. Of course, if it was a real thing, they would be such tiny microtubules, you wouldn't even see them. So we're talking about overtones here.
Is that not the size of the microtubules in cells, or they're even tinier than that?
It would have to be a lot smaller than anything you could see. It would have to be so many microns. So we think that we also run on this information energy, which is possibly what they're talking about when they say 0-point energy. The point is that from my experiments, we've shown that the body doesn't respond to 0-point energy or the matter wave from all molecules. It's only from these biological molecules.
Like carbon, hydrogen, and
carbon,
oxygen.
hydrogen. Calcium's very important. And then we get boron and a few odd ones, iodine, so on. But they're all ones that we know are very important in biology.
Maybe we should explain about that experiment you did 7 years ago with Clockenberg, with the device, because I've got footage of that.
Oh, we found that.
I found that this morning.
That's come from the archives. Years ago, when I was young, I decided to do a model of hydrogen as a cavity. I thought, well, everything's just space. Why don't we make the space that looks like or behaves like hydrogen. And I did. I made a great big long tube and I sealed it so that no electromagnetic energy could get into it. And then we put a little antenna inside it and joined that up with a radio receiver. Now that radio receiver was tuned to an area in the above 1000 megahertz, ultra high frequency. And I gave it to Clockenborg, my trusty electronic engineer, and I said, just tune and see if, and we had a display on a cathode ray oscilloscope, so we could see whatever it was. And of course you've got the footage seeing what these strange patterns that come from nowhere. Now it was my idea that inside the tube would be, there's no hydrogen, but there's plenty of air. There's some hydrogen in there. There's a lot of other things too. But by tuning a big tube just to hydrogen, we were going to get a picture of zero-point energy, what it might look like.
From hydrogen?
From, well, the hydrogen variety thereof, yeah. And of course this had never been done before, and it was quite a wild, crazy experiment. And it actually worked. Clockenborg sat up late at night tuning so carefully you would just tap the dial, and it was a 25-to-1 vernier dial, which means it's geared. And it was such a narrow signal, and then he came across more signals, and he ended up with a range of about 20 signals just from this tube. And we thought it must be television or radar or police, you know, ambulance or something, radio. But we checked all that, and then we realised that we did have a Faraday cage made of copper, and it keeps out most of the electromagnetic. And this was quite a strong signal, quite a strong signal.
And when you took it out of the tube, you couldn't pick up anything?
Yeah.
So it must have worked.
We did controlled experiments with it and found that we had something coming from nowhere, which isn't possible. So energy from nowhere.
Excellent. So what I want to get across is we've got this idea that we're able to pick up energy from nowhere in an experiment in this big tubule, and that your body is full of tubules, and each organ is full of even more tubules.
Well, we start life as a tubule, the embryo is a tubule. And how long that tubule is determines on what type of energy it will pick up from space.
Excellent.
That we've spent 75 years in physics studying energy and not very much time studying space.
Okay.
And its qualities. And this is one of the qualities of space.
So we've got this idea of tubules in the body, which are obviously all cavities. Perhaps you could tell us what types of cavities are in the body and what their functions might be.
Well, first of all, the moment you get a cavity, whether it's spherical or distorted, it'll tune to a particular frequency. And the more sharply it's tuned, it's said to have a quality factor. So some energies will tune broadly, and some will tune in a very narrow range, depending on the structure of that cavity. Now, we looked at I remember my first medical course. We said, why are all these holes in the brain? There are cavities in the brain. And the lecturer said, that's to make your head lighter because it's too heavy. And I thought, no.
Can you just demonstrate where these holes are?
They're called the ventricles. There's a lateral ventricle. There's a hole, a third and fourth ventricle back behind your eyes.
And there's no brain tissue in there?
There's nothing in them except fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid, okay? Now, what are these doing there? To make your head lighter? No, the body information system works on cavities. It really does. And we've got a whole lot of cavities in the head, I think 20-something. I mean, there's a large number in the head. But we've also got the organs. And the body organs all have a specific energetic quality depending on the shape and the volume of the organ. So we've done a bit of research here and found out where all the organs fit, and they all fit a certain frequency range in our
Within the
compartments, in the energetic compartments, which have turned into the integrators for NES.
Let's just go back to the brain a minute. Do you think these huge cavities in the brain are to do with, I don't know how to describe it, to do with mental processes, or just picking up information outside of your brain? Or, in other words, information transfer at a distance.
We want to transfer information. To do so, we need a cavity.
Yeah.
They're transducers. And what goes wrong in things like diseases like schizophrenia is these cavities become diseased. They start picking up radio messages from outer space that we can't hear. Yeah.
So in other words, the ventricles are acting rather like both transmitters and receivers for the brain.
What's the difference between transmitting and receiving? In wave and out wave. So it's the same process, and all you need is a cavity. Yeah. I think that's how the brain works. And the nervous system is part of how the brain works, and the cavity system is another separate part whose actual activity wasn't really understood. So, Harry, this is pretty big.
It's another big statement.
Neurologists take note, yes. It's a big statement.
It's a big statement. Okay, let's go down. Well, we've got cavities. There's obviously 4 big cavities in the heart. Perhaps you'd love to tell us about the heart imprinter and how that acts as a cavity.
Well, how this happened, all of the discoveries about the body and the NES infoceuticals all have a story. For each medicine that we have in our range, there's a story. And this one was a very dear old friend of mine in Australia, Michael Beatrice, rang me up and said, well, he's got some information on the cavities in the heart. And I thought, We all think of the heart as one single cavity. But I remember Professor Reed telling me that the frog has in fact got 5 chambers in the heart, and we've only got 4. And I thought, a chamber, that's a cavity. And guess what? The cavity is variable in size, so it must cover a huge range of frequencies as it's beating. Interesting thought. Well, then we we had one energy for the heart, but then we thought if we're more specific, we want to look at each cavity and then put them together as a composite. And we did so, and we got heart imprinter, the infoceutical called heart imprinter.
And what does the heart imprinter do?
Well, as far as I can see, this has got some role in imprinting information into the blood. The blood carries information, particularly about the immune function, to every cell in the body. That's how the immune system communicates with every cell in the body, via the blood.
So what we've got here is we've got the heart. It's not just a pump. It's got another big function.
But the heart is linked intimately with our immune system. The heart is linked intimately with our emotions. So now we've got a scientific theorem we can put up to describe how it is that our emotions can affect our immunity, which is an interesting one. We've got an actual mechanism. And we look back at the old homeopaths who used to imprint messages into bottles, and then you drink the contents of the bottle. This is called succussion in homeopathy. We don't use that term. I think we've gone past homeopathy. We're calling it imprinting.
So what you've got is the heart is acting as a big imprinter for information throughout the body, rather like the succussion idea in homeopathy.
Yeah, we have to get the information and then transmit the information so that it is available to the chemical part of our bodies.
And Peter, surely, if the heart is imprinting this information, it has to get this information from somewhere. And is that related because it's right in the centre of your body and your nervous system goes there and your lungs and all the meridian system also go through the heart?
Yeah, the old Chinese system had every meridian in the body. All the information channels all go to the heart, and they also all go to the eyes. They're two major energy centres in the body.
And do they all go to the nerve? Does the nervous system all come in as well?
Yeah, well, the heart's a big link because it links to the blood, which links us to all of the cells. The heart is also linked to in waves and out waves of the nervous system itself.
So the nervous system as well.
Yes, the heart is intimately connected back to the central nervous system. The sympathetic and parasympathetic fibres both go to the heart.
So we've ended up with sort of three really quite key systems. We've got the blood field, the nervous system field, and we've also got the lung field. And all of these three are connecting back to the heart.
Yeah, the heart is the intersection of the three body fields. And so if we want to hold things together, that is, a heart has an integrative function on the body field. You get your body field falling apart, you treat the heart. And it's interesting because the heart connects to the lungs. The lungs is the major energy, physical energy centre of our body. That's the one that transforms the oxygen exchange with carbon dioxide is lungs. That's the major energy centre of the body. And the heart is within the lungs, a cavity within a cavity.
So let's just get back to this idea of cavities again. How is the heart actually using cavities as such?
Well, it's got to be energised. It's got the lungs wrapped right around it. It's using the lung energy, the direct interchange.
So it's using source energy collected
It's using
in both
source
the
energy
lungs
and the physical oxygen exchange as well. Yeah. And believe it or not, the Chinese believed that it was the lungs that pushed the energy through the meridians, which is of course a fanciful idea. This doesn't really happen. It's much better than that. But you can see how much the lungs are connected to the function of the Chinese meridian system, which incidentally we found out is just the connective tissue in the body, tendons and so on.
Let's talk about emotions in the heart. Why on earth is the heart so important in affecting people's emotions, and how does that link to disease?
Well, the heart imprints your prevailing emotion on every cell in the body. And so it's very good to look at your prevailing emotion. In Chinese text, it says the heart is the ambassador of happiness and joy and should make a noise like a merry organ. When you look at the sad people around these days, they don't look exactly as if they're in a state of joy, and their prevailing emotion is one of depression and withdrawal and fear and so on and so on.
So if you're
this
depressed,
causes disease.
So if you're depressed, your heart beats the depression message throughout every cell in your body.
Every cell in your body
is depressed.
Gone to sleep.
Gone to sleep. Oh dear.
Yeah. So of course we replace that with the heart's true emotion, which is joy, and their disease pattern must change.
Excellent. So Peter, I want to introduce this idea of phase shift. Now, we know from the Milo-Wolf model we've got an out wave and then an in wave, and that things are in phase or they're not. But perhaps you'd like to tell us what is phase when we're relating it back to the human body.
Okay, what's in phase and what's out of phase? For those of you who haven't done electronics and physics, it's about space and it's about waves. If there's two waves and they miss each other, it's because they're out of phase. And if they link up and make a single unit, they're in phase. That's a simple way of putting it. When they're in phase, they can make each other stronger. When they're out of phase, they can cancel each other out once they get so badly out of phase. So you can actually make energy disappear from space by phase shift.
I want to go back to this idea of matching and of an out wave going out and an in wave coming back in with the information needed for physiological processes to work correctly. Now, you've got this idea of phase shift, and that a phase shift can be wrong. Perhaps you could explain in your own words about phase shift.
Well, before we were talking about matching. When you get a match, you get a change in conductivity of space, which enables the chemical reaction to take place. It's very quickly and rapidly. Otherwise it might never occur. Now phase is an error where there's no communication.
Right.
Different. When you get no information, you've got nothing happening. Everything stops.
So where is the error? The error is in the out wave.
The error is in the match between the in and the out wave.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we get nothing happening and we get a cessation of activity in the body. And in some serious diseases, the only way you could describe them energetically is blocked energy.
You've got an out wave going out, and you're saying there's an error in then the in wave coming back, that they're not in phase.
They can't match because they're not in phase.
Why on earth would they not be in phase?
The phase error is in fact related to frequency. There's a formula. We haven't done the maths, we're too stupid, but we haven't done the maths showing the interrelationship between the in wave and the out wave and frequency and energy. There is maths there. So they can interact a little bit.
So we've got an out wave and then we've got an in wave coming back in, and they don't match in phase. What implication does that have for health?
Well, as far as I can see, if you start right with Wolf, he's talking about a phase shift in the electron, which is negatively charged, going as far as 180 degrees error. And that's when the electron changes into a positron,
Right.
positively charged electron. Now, charge is huge in chemistry. This can start and stop reactions. You see what I mean? So it's for switching on and off reactions. This is what the phase does. This is a separate thing from matching, all right? Now, I've finally realized that we get that charge alteration in just a single electron, but what if we put a whole quantum hologram together? What effect is phase going to have on that whole quantum idea of a whole message? For instance, something that is needed for an organ. You see what I mean? It gets more complicated, more complex. And that's when the phase error can be related to a disease.
So what phase error is a breakdown in information transfer.
Yes, it means that the information is there, but it doesn't transfer from one place to another.
Excellent. So how many degrees can a phase error be?
According to Milo Wolf, there can only be 180 phase and still remain an electron, because the electron suddenly turns into a positron.
Okay. And what's your... I think you mapped out the phase error of certain...
Well, then we decided that perhaps phase was important because suddenly we get everything in the body looks as if it's working and it's not working. And you get these curious things, particularly things that neurologists struggle with. The nerve looks as if it should work, but it's not working. There's something they don't know. And that's because as soon as the error becomes so big, the information transfer stops.
And that happens at 90 degrees?
At 90 degrees, you're going to get a cancellation effect. The body does not like 90-degree phase errors. And the one that affects the body most
is energetic
affects
integrator
the kidneys. Integrator 6. We discovered quite recently that when that goes wrong, there's that much error. And it stops the kidney
that went wrong
work.
in Harry?
Yeah, it stopped the kidney working. It's like that. Incredible stuff. And the body doesn't like 0, 90, 180, doesn't like those angles.
So Peter, we've got this amazing idea that you've got phase that can shift to the left and it can shift to the right. Perhaps you'd tell us a bit about that.
Yes, technically we'd call it advance and retard. It's moving so many degrees. It can move 90 degrees that way, 90 degrees that way. And each time will have a different effect on the body. Sometimes if your phase of your whole energy field appears to have moved from where it should be, that is changing its vantage point, you need to do a correction. We found out that the energetic terrains actually move the phase slightly to the left.
So this idea about energetic terrains, moving off to the left, what are energetic terrains?
Well, energetic terrains is the energetic component of a viral or bacterial disease. Okay, nobody in this world can tell us why one virus or one bacteria will go and live in a certain part of the body, and we're saying, well, that's because where its terrain is. It's energetic. Its most favourable terrain, in the case of a cold or a flu, is in the ear, nose and throat and chest, and so on. That's the terrain of influenza. And
A few years ago, you made these energetic terrain infoceuticals by combining divergent meridians. Perhaps you'd like to tell us about that.
yes, we got to a certain group of internal meridians of the Chinese that all link to the heart, and these were found to be the only ones that would have an energetic link with the genetic material of the body, DNA, RNA. The only ones, and that was a bit surprising. And so we thought, well, if you get a virus, it's an invasion of a piece of DNA, isn't it, that wants to go and live in your cells. And that's going to change the body so as to make it easier for it's a parasite. It wants to live there. It wants to find a terrain and set up shop and multiply. And so we thought, well,
Bit like
why
bunny
don't we
rabbits.
correct the DNA terrain, and then it should be harder for the organism to live there. That was my idea.
So the energetic terrains are a direct correction of genomorphic damage done to cells. Would that be a correct assumption?
That is what we were trying to do to correct the after effects of a viral disease. As you know, you can have a virus happen to you. You have a virus disease and the effects of the virus hang on for years and years after you've had it. Same thing's happened with common influenza. It affects the heart. And you get heart pains for years after you've had the flu and so on. It's quite common. So we did develop a whole series of these, and interestingly, we just recently found out that they have a phase effect to correct for if the phase is shifting that way, it'll shift it slightly back that way.
So this is coming back again to phase shift. Why do you actually like it if there's a viral or bacterial infection going on?
Because we do have an immune system, and nobody can really explain, nobody in this world, about why the immune system works perfectly well sometimes and then doesn't work at another time. And it'll stop working the week before your physics exam, or the week after you get married, or after some big emotional type of event. And we can say, well, via the heart, which is connected to the brain, we're going to have effects on the blood and the immune system.
So
the phase is a cut-off. It simply cuts off a whole part of the field.
So taking some energetic terrain infoceuticals does a massive phase shift.
It's not a particularly big one, but it's worth having, for sure.
However, it can be strengthened considerably by mixing them with heart imprinter.
We've only just discovered that, well, we already knew that all of these things were linked to the heart, but better than that is linked to heart imprinter. And from our experiments to date, it looks as if heart imprinter can actually help correct the phase of the whole of the body field.
Excellent. So we've now got a way of doing massive phase shifts by mixing the heart imprinter with a variety of energetic integrators.
Yeah, I think actually, Harry, we're getting up to something like 65 degrees or something. And like having a cold or a flu or something might affect your phase slightly of 6 or 8 degrees. It's not much. But when you get quite ill, like cancer and arthritis, the big diseases like that, there is a very, very big phase shift, 20, 30, 40 degrees.
So it seems to me, Peter, that the crux of this bioenergetic model is that we've got information transfer going wrong, e.g. the matching going wrong at a minor level, and when we've got really serious diseases, we get a huge phase errors. Would that be correct?
Well, we found that there are definitely two things going on, and with the very difficult diseases that are going to affect your whole body, like diabetes, for example, there's whole chunks of the body field simply stop working.
So let's take diabetes, for example. It's not just a problem of the pancreas, it's actually a huge variety of things gone wrong in the body field.
Yes, there are three parts of the body field, and if they have an incorrect phase and don't relate correctly within themselves, they can chop each other off.
Dr. Hammer of Germany, he did some quite interesting research into shock and pathology.
This is an extraordinarily interesting man because he's a controversial figure simply because he stated that after looking at the results of pathology, 15,000 cases, he could see concentric rings appearing in the brain scans of his patients. And the radiologist said that these were artefacts, these are interference patterns that they weren't interested in, shouldn't be there. And he was interested in the concentric rings. Now, the moment anyone says concentric rings, you have to bring to mind
Waves!
Waves. You have to think of a spherical wave making concentric rings, and you have to think of our new model of the electron. And so it becomes extraordinarily interesting that this is an artifact that appears in scans of the brain. And the scan of the brain could actually, according to Dr. Hamer, it could be related to a specific part of the body. And he followed up the idea of trauma and shock as causing such a damage to the body that it was unable to repair itself.
So you're saying that a shock creates a bad memory in an area, and it's most likely to be the location of pathology later on?
Yes, this comes from Dr. Hamer himself, who said that it might take years and years and years. He was talking about a repeating message, as it were, from the hindbrain, and he actually traced the pathway of the energy through the body from where you were injured back to various parts of the brain, down to the spinal column, the spinal nerves back to an organ. And people begin to ask, why do the organs keep going wrong in the body? This is why. They're the transducers. And they're also linked directly to the brain via the nervous system. And if there's a repeating message of shock, horror, or damage that keeps coming to that organ, it will eventually become diseased.
So what you've got here is your heart keeps imprinting. Your heart creates a field, and it keeps going over a bad memory or a bad message, and keeps imprinting a bad message.
Keeps on imprinting a bad message because that message is so strong. Well, some messages appear to imprint and some don't, and we don't actually understand why some people take, well, it's into the language, some people take things to heart and others don't. But we're looking for the cause of chronic disease, and this is one of the major ideas that we have.
In Western medicine, we've got this problem of spontaneous remission. Now, if this new theory is any good, surely it must be able to explain spontaneous remission.
Yes, well, just as a background thought, we have to say, well, spontaneous is a word that means we don't know why, because everything that happens, there's always something pushing it, there's always a cause. So have we got room for explaining apparent magical mystery cures that we couldn't explain before? Yes, we can do that, because once a person makes a certain emotional adjustment or manages to prevent the tape loop, as it were, with the emotional stuff from continuing, suddenly a whole area of the body field which wouldn't work before because of a phase shift suddenly begins to work as if by magic, and there's remission from a disease. So within our model, you would not, you would actually predict that that would happen after an emotional change, yep.
Okay.
But it could also be after a minor viral or bacterial disease, because we know they can shift the phase at all, a few degrees, which might be just enough to get the body field to work again. Remember, it's a switch. It's on or it's off. There's no sort of intermediate stage.
So Peter, we've got the second law of thermodynamics, where heat just dissipates and turns into grey soup. Now there's a big problem in biology, because biology you've got coherence and it's actually keeping heat in. So how does this new model explain how biology can break the second law of thermodynamics?
Yes, well, it's not a question just of creating the heat in the body for warm-blooded creatures like us, but it's how that heat is regulated night and day, summer and winter, inside and out the body. It's quite an incredibly difficult thing to control heat because of the second law of thermodynamics, which means it will spread out evenly. And here we are, we have concentrated heat in our body, and if it changes by just 1 degree centigrade, we die of heat stroke.
And that's not good, is it?
It's very bad. So how on earth does the body regulate the transmission of heat and the creation of heat within the body? When you ask the chemical model people about how heat is created in the body, they've got, well, it's a theory, and it's about oxidation and so on. But there may be a lot more to it than that. So, and we have to look at the way in which the body field acts as a regulator of cellular activity, or is it a regulator of heat? There is no place or part in the body that has been identified by physiologists as being the bit that controls heat.
So what you're saying here is that in actual fact, it must be information transfer that is actually controlling the amount of reactions going on in the body at any one time to such an accurate level that it controls temperature to within
Exactly.
1 degree.
It must be an incredibly fine mechanism.
Because we've got billions of reactions occurring all the time.
There are billions of reactions, not just in one spot, but all over the body, each of a slightly different temperature because of the different ambiences. You know, the small toe is likely to get much colder than the inside of the lungs.
And just to amplify this point, let's say the chemical model was right, and I stood here and went and breathed in lots more oxygen, and I drank a load of sugar, then surely suddenly my body would be producing more heat, and I'd die. Yet it doesn't.
Well, there's an interesting one here because you can always learn from other cultures, and here we have to learn from Tibetan Tumo, which is where the monks go out in the snow with their blankets, and they don't have Mars bars and they don't have cups of coffee, and they have to survive the night in the snow. And they don't do it by special breathing only. The breathing is actually part of it, but they make a sound. And the sound isn't important, but the sound with a particular sort of breathing, a particular type of consciousness, they're able physically to change their body temperature at night in the snow, as I say, without Mars bars and coffee. And we can learn a lot from this.
Could you explain to me why embryology is a bioenergetic situation rather than a biochemical situation?
Well, absolutely everybody who studies medicine has to do embryology, and it's one of those dreadfully boring things. But to me, it's not, because we're looking at a sphere, the original bit, dividing, and then it's making structures. Each few days, the embryo, as it develops, changes in structure until it becomes a long tube, great long tube develops through the sphere and so on. And it's actually quite fascinating. And then when you do the formal course, you have to describe what can go wrong and indeed what happens, what the order of development is. Because if you aren't constructed in exactly the right order, something goes wrong and you get a birth defect. Now, to our amazement, we found out during embryology course that the heart begins not only to form, but it starts to actually operate after 40 days. It starts to beat. And there is absolutely no reason for it to beat in the embryo, because the embryo already has a full blood supply and uses the mother's blood supply, therefore the mother's heart. So why does the heart start to beat in the embryo? Very early on. And of course, the moment you say this, after what we've said about the heart this morning, you can see that the embryo needs to imprint information as it goes in order to facilitate development of the embryo.
Because its information is going to be different from the information that the mother needs to produce for herself.
Not only that, and another curious phenomenon is that after we developed the organs, the treatment for the organs, as they're called, the drivers, we suddenly realised that when we put the drivers in the order that they wanted to be in, and we have to do that because all our treatment must be sequential, it turned out that they were more or less in the same order of development as organs in the embryo. This is crazy. This is the way the organs would like to be in terms of order. In other words, the first thing that develops is the brain and the heart. So we find the brain and the heart very early, and then last of all, the urinary bladder system, I think, is one of the last organ things to develop. So we found that quite extraordinary.
And that's also the same order that you need to treat people in.
That is the order which the body would prefer to be treated in. Yeah, the sequence is actually very important.
So maybe I'll just elaborate on that. We've got it starts with the source energy, which generally is coming from like heaven energy mixed with earth energy. And that happens at the moment of conception, where the sperm meets the egg. And the egg occurs up into the mother's stomach, and that fetus develops with its heart starting first of all. And then the heart then starts to beat, then the nervous system forms. Then when you're born, your lungs start to breathe in and out. And then last of all, your stomach, you start eating food, and then the stomach system starts. So you've got these 4 energy fields that have all started in sequence, and that's exactly the order that it's arranged ourselves in the NES test, and that you treat yourself with.
Extraordinary stuff.
Extraordinary. So let's talk about geopathic stress. And how does that affect the centrosome?
Well, to our great surprise, geopathic stress turned out to be very important for the cell. And that acts as a mediator. There are parts of the cell which appear to be sensitive to external fields. And I think I'd better say what we mean by geopathic stress. These are stresses on the body caused by geomagnetic energy fields that have been distorted by the presence of cold, underground water or caves. And we don't know why, but the body is indeed quite sensitive to these variations. And this is why we get some houses where people get sick, and some towns where people get sick more than others. And we found that the organelle inside the cell that was most sensitive to external radiation was the centrosome.
And so this relates back to the big field aligner in pharmaceutical.
It does, very much. But to correct geopathic stress, you can use big field aligner and cell driver. That's all. And that accounts for a considerable amount of disease.
And it's also at the beginning of the test.
It's right at the beginning of the test, because we've got the things that have to be done first, and that's one of the things that goes wrong. With the other one's polarity, which is of equal importance. And you sort of say polarity of what? But as far as I know, it's ionisation. And people work far better in a negatively ionised environment, negatively ionised air, water molecules and so on. If you've been on a plane recently, you need polarity because something goes drastically wrong with your energy field when you fly at 36,000 feet, to the point that some people develop colds and flus and so on after plane travel.